Hello all, welcome to Alyx's World, a safe space for wrestling fans like you. I am your host, Alyx, just Alyx, and ladies and gentlemen, we are interviewing Maria Kanellis Bennett, the First Lady of Professional Wrestling, and of course, the owner of Women's Wrestling Army. She is here to talk about her company, her career, and many other topics. So before we get into that, let's get a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored by Audible. Audible is the leading provider of audiobooks. They have over 180,000 audiobooks to choose from, including books written by wrestling legends like Chris Jericho, Mick Foley, Bryan Danielson, Drew McIntyre, and Jim Ross. Today, if you visit www.audibletrial.com, just Alyx, you can get one free audiobook of your choosing. Audible is the best place for audiobooks, and I cannot recommend it enough. In my time, I've listened to Chris Jericho's The Best in the World and Bryan Danielson's Yes books, both narrated by them personally. And here's the best part. Even if your membership wears out or you just aren't satisfied with the product, you can cancel your free trial at any time, and your audiobooks are yours to keep. So again, go to audibletrial.com, just Alyx, and begin your journey today.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce an actress, a model, a manager, an Impact Knockouts champion, the owner of Women's Wrestling Army, and of course, the First Lady of Professional Wrestling, Maria Kanellis Bennett. How are you doing, Maria?
That was good. That was fancy.
Listen, it's been a good 18, 20 years since you've been in the wrestling business, unless I'm missing some years. Man, you've worked in WWE, TNA, Impact, NWA, Ring of Honor, and now AEW. Man, please talk about how amazing it is to work through all of these professional wrestling companies.
It's wild because when I first set out, I didn't even realize how expansive the world of wrestling is. I had no idea that there was so many independent wrestling companies. I didn't even know a whole lot about Impact Wrestling. So for me, it was, WWE was all I knew. And then as time went on, I was introduced to Ring of Honor and I was introduced to Impact Wrestling. I was introduced to the independents. And I have to say, like, they all have their appeal. I mean, the indies are great because you can really get on the ground floor with people and watch talented individuals grow, but also grow with the fans. So the small towns, the middle of nowhere, is like sometimes those also have the greatest fans.
You've had fans spanning generations. I'm talking about people that saw you when they were little kids, now grown up.
It's weird because Billy Starks, she recently worked for me at Women's Wrestling Army in Chicago. And her dad sent me a photo of her as like a little kid. And she had came to a Ring of Honor show. And now she's working for me. So, and she's not the only one, and she's not the first one that has showed me a photo of them being a little kid and now being a wrestler. So that's also really fun. And I think that it also it's a reminder to think about how you are to people on an everyday basis and how you treat others, because what goes around comes around. And just seeing Billy again, it's like so great that we had such a good experience the first time we met, because now we can just build off of that.
Women's Wrestling Army. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, please talk about what inspired you to create this new company.
Ever since I started in wrestling, and probably the reason why I started in wrestling is because I always wanted more women's rights. I wanted more opportunity. I just believe that there is more in the world than to just take care of a house or just take care of kids or just have a job or just do this. I wanted it all. And all along those years of being in WWE and being in other companies, I never seen a lot of women that were on the other side of the camera, that were in executive positions. And I really enjoyed my time at OVW. I was a student of Paul Heyman and, really learned from him. And, after Ring of Honor and being able to be in charge of the women's division at Ring of Honor with Bobby Cruise, I really wanted there to be another place for women to work. And so we created Women's Wrestling Army.
If I was to ask you the mission statement or the purpose of this show, what do you want fans to think about when they watch Women's Wrestling Army?
You're watching the future stars of tomorrow today. And what I mean by that is they're stars in their own right now. They have been in their own communities. They've been stars, in their promotions, wherever they've been working. They have been promotions on major television shows. They've been on AEW. They've been on Impact Wrestling. But they're also still learning and they're still growing in their own characters. So it's the past, it's the future, it's all together. And what we really want to do is just provide a place for women to come in and to work and grow and expand.
If I was to ask you to name, let's go 3 talents you think fans should watch when it comes to your show for like 2023, what are 3 wrestlers that you can give me right now that stand out for you?
Oof. Let's do Queen Amanada, who I feel like in the last year has really came into her own. Janai Kai, I feel like she really excels in Women's Wrestling Army. I think that Jordan Blade, Missa Kate, Brooke Valentine, and Lainey Luck, I think would be our, I wouldn't say top 6. I would just say the 6 right now that I really feel like are really kicking on all cylinders. They're really showing everything that they've got out there in the ring. There's more. Ashley Dembois, I think, is a fantastic talent, super athletic. So she's another one to definitely watch. We also have, we have stars from other companies. So, I mean, Masha Slamovich, she's absolutely incredible. She worked with us this last TV taping. Sky Blue, who, she's very young in this industry, but she put on a hell of a match with us this past TV taping. So, we've got the gamut. I mean, Tasha Steelz, she's rebuilding after losing the Knockouts Championship, and she's really starting to define, what comes next for Tasha Steelz. For many different reasons, there's a ton of different stories to watch.
Are there plans for you to take the company touring, maybe go to a couple of cities anytime soon?
So we started in Providence, Rhode Island. We hit Chicago the last couple of tapings. We are probably going to go to Nashville next. But that's not set in stone. I'm still working through everything with the building. Probably Texas at some point. Orlando is definitely, we're looking towards. Our biggest thing is we want to make sure that, we have the building, we have the space, we have production, and we also have the talent. Because at the end of the day, everybody that works for us is incredibly busy because they're also very talented.
Right.
So, it's getting all those pieces together and where it makes sense at the end of the day.
Is there going to be a case where you get exclusive talent, where you sign them under contract, or is it one of those things where you guys can come in and work whenever you can and you'll work with whoever wants to be there?
Right now, there's no plans for that just because we do work sporadically. So we only tape every 3 months. That's done intentionally. Everybody's busy, like I had mentioned before. And so when we get everybody together, everybody works really freaking hard over the few days, and then they go off and they do what they need to do with their families and with their other independents that they're working for. So currently, no, there's no plans for that. Would that be a goal down the road? I don't know. I think part of the appeal of Women's Wrestling Army is the fact that we do work with other companies. We've had Holodead defend her Mission Pro Championship before. We've worked, with different companies along the way, like Warrior Wrestling. So I don't know if we'll ever get to a place where we're like, okay, we're just exclusive.
Almost like a forbidden door for female wrestling. I like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it brings everybody together in the sense that, maybe you wouldn't necessarily work with an AEW talent because you're on Impact, but in Women's Wrestling Army, you can.
This next question is going to be kind of controversial, but I'm asking anyways. One fan was wondering if you would ever work with Tessa Blanchard, and we know that she's someone that has quite a reportedly controversial reputation backstage, being difficult behind scenes, racial slurs. If the opportunity came for her to work with you, would you allow her to work in your company?
I know of Tessa through passing. I don't know her on a personal level. I've worked with some of her close friends in Impact Wrestling. I worked with people that were at her wedding. But personally, I don't know her. So, would an opportunity ever arise? I don't know. So I don't know, because I don't know if there would ever be that opportunity.
When people think about you, Maria, they still think about that lovable ditzy airhead interviewer. Man, how does it feel to know that fans still talk about that character here in 2022?
It's wild. That was an era of wrestling, though, that was very different.
Hmm.
Uh, that there's so many people that are still talked about to this day from that era of wrestling. I mean, Trish and Lita and The Rock and Stone Cold and Shawn Michaels, Triple H. You could go down the entire list of talent, from Masters to Carlito to, there's just so much talent from that era that people still continue to talk about. So there was some kind of secret sauce back then, or maybe in some way, it was just we were ingrained into people's minds because they were a certain age. Um, so I think it's incredible. It's a humbling thing as well. I think there's all these different kinds of conversations about which era is the best and which was the best wrestling and all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I feel like we need to respect people more and just know that everybody has their own tastes.
Right.
Everybody likes what they like. Maybe they like a certain style of wrestling. Maybe they like, ground and pound, or maybe they like high flyers. Um, all of it should be respected. Everybody's opinion should be respected. Because we all love wrestling. It just might
Mhm.
be different kinds of wrestling and different styles. So for me, it's just a reminder to not judge that character or judge that time so much that you take away the fun. So every time someone reminds me of something that happened back then, when Eugene dumped milk on my head, or when Carlito spit in my face, or Stone Cold Steve Austin sprayed me down with beer, um,
Man.
it was all fun moments
Mhm.
for a fan. And in their mind, they giggled, or they thought it was the best, or they connected on some level, and that should be respected.
That was during a time where sex appeal was massive when it comes to female wrestling.
Yeah.
Divas were a thing. And nowadays, you say the word diva, everyone goes, ugh. Not everyone, but you saw the AJ Lee promo where she essentially said that interchangeable, they can't wrestle, they can't talk. But I know you are someone that's made a career off of being a diva, and you're still relevant today. So the question is, can divas still work here in 2022?
I would counter with, aren't they the only ones from that era still working?
Oh.
So, which ones are relevant and which ones are still working today in the industry? Which ones have made major changes to wrestling? And almost every single one is going to be a diva.
Mm.
And so people can say what they want, but this goes back to the whole, we need to respect everybody's opinion. You look at Maurice, you look at the twins, you look at Mickey, you look at Gail Kim, you look at Beth Phoenix, you look through all the different women that are still working today on these journeys of 18, 20 years, and sometimes even more years than that. At some point in their career, they were called divas.
Mm.
So maybe diva isn't a negative. Maybe diva means longevity, because there's a lot of us that still work. And we've changed things too. There's some divas that now have a clothing line or a wine career, or maybe they are a producer and they produce television shows. Maybe they have an all women's wrestling show. Diva isn't a negative. And at the end of the day, we just need to appreciate that everybody has a difference of opinion.
Well said. That's the headline right there. Diva means longevity. Jesus Christ. Just really quickly before we move on, do you have any favorite moment for you personally back during that time when you were the interviewer? Perhaps a segment, perhaps an interview. What stands out to you most as that airhead character?
Mm. So, I got to work with such incredible, talented people. I remember working with Trish way back when, and she slapped me, And I'll never forget that day because it knocked a filling out. She brought it, man.
Yeah.
But it was, that interview I remember really clearly. There was a super funny interview that I did backstage with Crime Time. Oh my gosh, and I'm just laughing to myself, and Crime Time is on this couch with me, and I'm in between them, and I'm, like, trying to get away, and it was just so funny.
I remember that.
And they were, and they were all great guys. I did an interview one time with Edge, and he comes up to, and he must have had a very busy day. And the first thing he says to me is he's like, "I've got coffee breath. This jacket is wet. I'm sorry." And I was like, "It's okay." It was just a funny moment.
Yeah.
And that was when I did the Edge promo.
The ruthless aggression era was just a completely different time. People talk about the attitude era, but honestly, we gotta give credit to that era as well. And
Yeah.
you talk about Paul Heyman being a mentor. I think he was a leading voice, a leading head writer for that era. How was it working with Paul back in the day?
It was great. I mean,
Yeah.
I was blessed to be in a time where I was able to, work with Heyman and have so many great minds around me. But OVW at that time had so many talented individuals. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, we had such a good group of people. And I don't know if it was just because we were all feeding off of each other, but it was awesome.
Well, we fast forward to nowadays where, and let's talk about it. Female wrestling is so prominent. We've seen women main event WrestleMania. As a
Mhm.
veteran, again, almost 20 years, talk about how great it is to see female wrestling much more appreciated nowadays than it really was back then.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how far things have come.
Mhm.
And you know, uh, I think there's also moments now where the talent can actually stand in the ring and appreciate the fact that they're there.
Mhm.
And you really saw that on the face, I think, of Sasha and Bianca when they were headlining WrestleMania, and just the way that they were able to breathe it in and to
Yeah.
say, okay, we're here and this matters and people care. And I think more and more of those moments will make it seem more real. Because sometimes when it just happens once, like an Evolution pay per view, or like when it's just like one main event, sometimes it's just like, okay, we did it, and everybody clapped for us.
Yeah.
Okay, but when does it become so consistent that you forget? That you
Yeah.
forget that there was ever a discrepancy? And I think that is the moment that it becomes to where it's real equality, where you don't have to really talk about it anymore. And that's the part that I think we're striving for in so many different ways. And it takes time to get there. Like, and I always get upset with people when they judge it too much, where they judge this process. Like, we still have to get there. And
Yeah.
there's going to be so many bumps in the roads, and people are going to screw up, and they're not going to know how to talk about it. They're not going to know what to say. And we're all going to do that, but we can't judge it so much that we can't also enjoy those moments like Sasha and Bianca did. That's when I think real change can happen.
This is a follow-up question. So, do you think social media, in a way, has made wrestling a lot less enjoyable? And I ask this because you're right. Stone Cold Steve Austin, when he started off as Steve Austin in the 80s, come on, it took him almost a decade to get to the point where he was Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Yeah.
arguably the greatest of all time. Same thing
Mhm.
goes for Mark Calloway and The Undertaker. Hulk Hogan worked in Japan before he became Hulkamania. But since social media is more ingrained in society now, everyone wants instant gratification. I'm curious to know how you feel about social media's impact on wrestling.
I unintentionally kind of taken like a little break from a lot of social media stuff because
Yeah,
it takes the fun out of it. It's like,
yeah,
just give me a minute. We're gonna figure it out. Just give me a minute,
yeah,
or you'll see somebody and they'll stumble, or maybe they slip off the top rope, or something will happen in the match, and it's like, yeah, but that was one moment. What about the rest of the match? What about how they recovered? What about the every other move that wasn't considered a blooper? if we remember to still have fun and enjoy ourselves and get out of our own way of criticizing everything, that's when you can actually enjoy yourself. When we just get on social media and say, I don't like this and I don't like that and I don't want to blah, blah, blah. It takes the fun out of things. I think, when the Young Bucks came back and you're watching that and it's a fantastic match and like just let yourself enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about like, oh, back in the 80s. Okay. And you know what? I'll watch a match from the 80s and I'll enjoy that too. And that's, but sometimes we just need to allow ourselves to have fun. Let's just have fun while we watch wrestling.
That is that mindset where it's just like, it should be done this way and only this way because this is real wrestling. And I disagree. I do think wrestling should have a variety.
Well, wrestling's always had a variety.
Yeah.
It's just we didn't have to accept those varieties so quickly because it used to be that you could only watch it on tape or you could only watch it 6 months down the line when it would finally make its way to you. So, New Japan's always had, their style of wrestling and what that was, where they started in wrestling, how they wanted to start in wrestling. Ring of Honor has had their style of wrestling. WWE has had their style of wrestling. But way back when, there was like catch wrestling and there was all these different styles of wrestling too. If you go way back when, it's just everything wasn't so prominent right at this moment because you had no access to it.
Right.
If you lived in Texas, you only knew Texas wrestling. And so that's the thing that we still need to I guess learn, and we're still learning how to deal with so much information all the time. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's not right. It's just not right to you at this moment, but maybe you would like it if you would actually open your mind. So that's, that's where it's different. Is like, there is no right way. There is a right way to enjoy things, and that's just to sit down and enjoy them.
Hey, I want to go ahead and move on to being a manager, and I was going to talk about that one guy right there, Mike Kanellis. Mike Kanellis. So you've been managing him for a while now. You managed the Kingdom, Honor No More. What is it about the art of managing? Because that's something that you love to do. What is it about it that's so appealing to you?
Well, it's Mike Bennett for one.
Yeah.
Mike Kanellis was his WWE name, but that's not his real name.
My bad, Mike Bennett. Thank you for that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But I love managing because you can listen to everything that's happening behind you as a manager in the crowd. And you can be a direct link from the crowd to the guys that you're working with or the girls you're working with in the ring. Managers get to see everything in a very different way. You get to be close up to the ring. You get to hear the referee is saying, what everybody around the ring is saying. That's the part that I really enjoy. I enjoy just the relationship between everybody inside the ring and the fans. And being kind of like that bridge between them.
Some of your best moments of being a manager was you actually taking the bumps and actually getting attacked. I think about you taking a triple super kick to the face, taking an indie taker. That's what separates you from most women, because nowadays they don't get attacked by men. They don't take bumps a lot. Do you think that is something that we got away from? Because I think it's essential for managers who are heels to get the heat and then get their comeuppance. But how can you get that when you can't be attacked because you know what?
It's interesting because men and women have matches all the time now. Intergender wrestling is very popular. And so I just don't think that there's a whole lot of managers, female managers that are on the indies. Now, I think that there's a bunch of female managers that are in WWE right now, and I think that's amazing. I just think that maybe we're finding our new balance as far as, what does a female manager mean in today's society? And because I've been doing it for so long, I've been able to weather the storm. But anybody that's started within the last 5 years, this is a brave new world of, what is a manager like now? and what kind of bumps can she take? Can she stand up to the guys? Can she, can she give some moves? What is exactly that look like? And I think we're still defining it. For me, I go under the approach of, how can I make it make sense now? Still want to be able to accomplish all the things that I accomplished 18 years ago as a manager. I just want to be able to do them now. So how do we modernize?
Yeah.
But that's similar to how do we modernize in fashion or anything else? We have to learn what's acceptable now.
Right.
It's fun too because like the biggest pop of the night will be when I take one bump and I'll be like, "Yep, that's all. That's all we needed, guys." These boys are working their tails off
Yeah.
and one thing happens to me and everybody loves it. So, which, that's so much fun. That's what a performer, like that's what we're energized by is the crowd reaction. So, when we could get a reaction like that off of me taking one bump, then it makes it all worth it.
So I need to make up for this. Mike Bennett and you joined WWE, and when you did on that second run, he wasn't Mike Bennett. He was Mike Kanellis.
Uh-huh.
And ultimately, let's just call it like it is. Whatever plan you guys had didn't come to fruition
Yep.
because of whatever backstage politics. So I was very curious, what ultimate plan was there for you two, and why didn't it come to fruition exactly?
I think like we could make up a lot of stories, but you never really know what goes on in the minds of a Vince McMahon. So I'm not going to even try and assume. I know the like overarching plan was to eventually turn Mike face. Have him start winning and really tell his story of addiction and recovery. And that was, really what, the basis of the characters were about was I was losing my mind. And he was really trying to find himself. And eventually and he would have turned on me. But WWE just wasn't ready to tell that story at that time. Would they be now? I don't know. But I'd rather live in the present anyways.
I remember a tweet about I wouldn't go back there and work unless a certain man was gone. Well,
Uh-huh.
Maria, that man is gone and we have a new regime. So please talk about how amazing it is to now have Triple H and Stephanie in charge of WWE. How does that make you feel?
I think it's, I think it always has to be shaken up. I think that, you do things a certain way for a certain number of years and then things do need to change. So, shaking things up is always a great thing. I've always had a fantastic relationship with Triple H and Stephanie. They sent me gifts after both of my children, wishing me luck and congratulations. Giant gifts. Like I'm talking baskets that were like this big. They were humongous with like rockers and like my daughter loves hers. It's got like it's a coyote, so howling at the moon. My daughter's middle name is Moon, so it was a coyote. And they sent all of these gifts for both of the kids. They gave my husband some great advice about parenting. So I think, for us, like on a personal level, we've always liked Stephanie and Triple H. And we definitely communicated with Triple H, as our contracts were coming up
Yeah.
with Impact Wrestling. And so like we did that that courtesy conversation and it went really well. And at the end of the day, I think AEW is the place that we belong. So we're really happy about the different relationships we have now in so many different companies.
So how did that come about? How did you end up signing with AEW? Did Tony reach out to you? Did you reach out to him? I'm curious.
Well, I've been talking to Tony now since May because of the Ring of Honor women's division. So I've had a really great time, conversing back and forth with him about the Ring of Honor women's division, about different women that I work with now in Women's Wrestling Army. So I think, I'm not going to give details on everything, but I will say that, we've really enjoyed our time at AEW and we can't wait to do more.
I want to get into Ring of Honor. Let's be real. There was a time last year, I think, we thought it was done. It was
Yeah.
like a huge hiatus. We don't know if we're coming back. But Tony Khan said, nope, I'm going to buy it and bring it back. When it felt like the doors were going to close, what was that like? And how did you feel when Tony Khan resuscitated it by buying the promotion?
So the doors did close. And for a lot of us, that was it. I mean, we all left last year thinking, that was the end for Ring of Honor. And we all started to have to figure out, where are we going to work? And, thank heavens for Impact Wrestling and Scott D'Amore and Gail Kim. And the entire crew over there for bringing us in and having, this fantastic idea of Honor No More, because we just didn't know what was going to end up happening. And then we started to hear rumblings about how Ring of Honor might have been bought. And for us, it didn't really change anything because we were already signed somewhere else. So we didn't know, was Ring of Honor going to get purchased and just be used for the library? Was it going to, end up with a TV show? We didn't know. We still don't know. But for us, it was just, we were watching it from the outside. And then when Tony Khan purchased it, we were all incredibly happy about it. My partner in Women's Wrestling Army, Bobby Cruz, started working for Tony and doing all of the championship matches for Ring of Honor right off the bat. And so he's always, talking about how great of a boss Tony Khan is. And I feel like, having that spirit of a fan and owning a wrestling company is great because, you really want to see your talent succeed. You want to see your brand succeed. And I think Ring of Honor is going to be another brand that succeeds because of it.
Speaking of working with Tony Khan, a lot of fans want to know, since you did write for Ring of Honor at one point in time, has Tony Khan approached you about writing for maybe for Ring of Honor Women's Division or the AEW Women's Division?
So we've talked in the past about the Ring of Honor Women's Division, and because there's no real path moving forward on what, is there going to be a TV deal? Is there not? We don't really talk about that anymore. And as far as what we've been doing on AEW, it's very much tag team wrestling focused. And so my goal right now is to get tag team gold on the Kingdom. And that's my main focus. And so everything else right now, I don't really think about because it's really important to be successful as a tag team.
When you look at the AEW Women's Division, it started off with a lot of talent that were new, like absolutely new to television. But you look at it now, Saraya, Britt Baker, Athena, Thunder Rosa, the names, I'd be here all day just naming them all. Talk about how amazing this division is now compared to what it was when it first started.
Well, when any division starts, you really don't know, how they're going to blend. And they have tons of their own self-made stars, in-house AEW brand stars. And I think that's incredible. They have such a strong women's division and they're really finding their groove. Everybody between, Jade and Tony and, you just, these stories are starting to come out and it takes time to get there. It takes time to build. I think right now is really one of the best times I've seen in AEW women's divisions.
Final question I ask every wrestler before I end the interview is, if you were to retire right now, what is one thing you want fans to remember you mostly for?
Maybe don't remember me, but remember the emotions you had watching the things that we did. Were you excited? Were you happy? Were you scared? Were you, remember those moments? Because I think those are the things that last forever. Those memories that you make together, those memories that Billie Starkz was making, coming to the Ring of Honor shows must have meant something to her because now she's made a career out of it. And I think that that's the most important thing is to make memories.
Wow. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me, Maria.
Of course. And thank you for being a fan of women's wrestling. I mean, we have brand new episodes that are coming out this Wednesday. We've got 10 episodes that were all done at the Berwyn Eagles Club, which is a historic club for women's wrestling. We had tremendous stars on our show, from Kylie King to Masha Slamovich to Tasha Steeles to Queen Aminata, Janai Kai. There's so many to name. They all kicked ass in their matches. We have, our stories are building between our girls. You're really going to be able to start to see their personalities shine through. Not only that, but we have our documentaries that are going to be happening, I think, after week 5. And then we have another documentary after week 10. So these documentaries really give the backstory. They'll show, me and Bobby Cruz arguing over who knows what. But also, the girls themselves having meetings with Allison Danger and BJ Whitmer. So, which were 2 of our agents backstage. And then my husband was another agent. So like, I think that with our show, what makes us different is not only do you get to see the in-ring action, the promos and the storylines, but you also get to see the backstory. So you can watch all of our episodes on Pro Wrestling TV. You just download the app. It's all for free there. If you want to become an exclusive content member, it's on Brand Army. It's brandarmy.com/women's wrestling army. There's behind the scenes photos, videos, all of the exclusives is on there. We also have our YouTube page, our Twitter, our Instagram, our TikTok. We have so many ways, Facebook, all the ways that you can watch our show. So, I mean, if you want to watch GIFs, we have GIFs on TikTok. If you want to watch the full matches, we have those on YouTube. Full show is always on Pro Wrestling TV. So, I think that what makes it so great is that we're a really strong team. We all fight for each other. We continue to fight for each other out in the world, even when we're not together at these tapings. So watch Women's Wrestling Army.
Awesome. And of course, tell them where to find you on social media, if you don't mind.
So I'm at Maria L. Kanellis on Twitter. On Facebook, it's official Maria Kanellis. On Instagram, it's Maria Kanellis. You can also follow all my exclusive content on brandarmy.com/Maria Kanellis. No, you can watch it. I'm trying to think what the Brand Army one is, but you can just go to my website, which is mariakanellisworld.com.
Yeah, and I'll link it down below in the description if you're looking for it as well. We got you.
Sounds great.
And there you have it. Thank you to Maria for coming on my channel doing this interview. Lovely lady. Please check her out, as well as Women's Wrestling Army on social media. The links are down below in the description box. As always, thank you guys for being here. Do all the YouTube things. Like the video, subscribe, and click that bell. Be sure you follow me on social media and check out future videos and future interviews here in Alyx's World. A place that is, was, and forever will be a safe space for wrestling fans like you. You have a good day, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.